Hello, Perennial Pride listeners. Thanks for joining me today. I think you're going to have an eye-opening conversation here. Have my guest here, Joe Vitti. He's the CEO of Impetra Technology Solutions, a cybersecurity expert, which I'm sure everyone listening here knows everything about cybersecurity. So just joking. I suspect a lot of people don't know a lot about, so that's why I need to bring on an expert. And this month, and when this is being recorded in October, is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So I figure it'd be a good sort of connection to introduce some concepts and things that maybe you ought to be aware of, whether you're just an employee working and with family, and you have obviously personal information that is really relevant to your life, and then, or if you're a business owner, obviously that could be extremely important for you to protect things, protect information, certainly financial information, and certainly safeguard the wellness of your company. So, Joe, I really appreciate you joining us today and sharing some of your insights and wisdom.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So, Joe, before we kind of get into some of the details, obviously want to pick your brain on some things, but how the heck do you get into cybersecurity? Like, what was your path to here?
I guess nowadays, because of the elevated risks that there are, if you're an IT guy, you're moving into that space kind of by default. And if you're not, you're behind the curve, because there's it's just so integrated in what we do as IT people. You have to move quickly into the security space to make sure your customers are protected. That's our goal. That's the goal we do. That's our everyday focus.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, because I think in my world of wealth, and I think of things, and we've talked about this before, around our wealth building is focused on two areas around protection and growth of our wealth. And obviously this sits on the side of protection. And so from your lens, like, I would imagine these days, especially how connected we are in technology, it's just like we can't even imagine life without it. Like, I would imagine the risks are increasing by the minute.
Everything we do now requires a form fill with our name and email and address and phone number. And every time we give our data to somebody, it's another point that it can be taken from.
So from your lens, like, and this is where thinking about it from two sides, one being a lot of my listeners are probably going to be, may not be business owners. So let's start there. Let's start on the side of, hey, just normal everyday people with families and bank accounts and other things of importance. Like, what are some things that, some of the more common risks, but then secondarily, like maybe some of the ones that we don't even know about or even think twice about. We don't even know they exist.
So I think obviously your money is the thing that's most at risk. And so the best thing that you can do is use multi-factor authentication on your accounts, especially bank accounts. Some banks have you log in with your standard username and password, and then my bank asks me questions that I have to answer. They ask different questions every time. I've obviously set the thing ahead of time. Other banks will send the code via SMS or email or other things. But this is the best way to protect your bank account itself, at least the web access, from bad actors getting into it. But there are other risks other than money, like information that I was talking about before. Every time you fill something out, some company has your data, and this can include things like your car lease, your cell phone, take out a loan. Anytime you're giving out information, it doesn't have to be social security number. We've seen business owners actually have their business accounts hacked from information that was taken from larger companies that they had interacted with personally, like Audi was breached a number of years back, Target, Home Depot, Walmart. Anytime this information is taken by bad actors, they sell it on the internet or give it away for free. Most of them sell it, but there's some available for free. And the people will gather information from multiple sources, put it together, create a profile for you, and then use it all together to go at you. And this could be something that you might not even know about. Sometimes it's they're making bank accounts in your name, and so you have nothing to do with it, but they're using it for whatever purpose they are. Sometimes they're going after your specific account. In this case that I'm talking about, they manage to put together passwords and get into someone's email account and take off from there.
Yeah, it's a little scary. I mean, I've certainly heard stories in the past around, like identity theft,
Yep.
right? And people were digging out of, trying to clean up the mess that someone left behind. I mean, I guess in this day and age, there might be even more ways that can happen, like you're describing, right? Just basically replicating your existence somewhere else. So
And the best way to combat that is freeze your credit. If you're not actively borrowing, freeze your credit, and no one can use it against you, right? Because at this point, we have to assume that like all of our social security numbers are out there somewhere.
you kind of almost like, as a person who's not in this sort of field, you kind of almost like, you sometimes feel helpless because you just assume it's all out there.
Yeah, it basically is. And there's like nothing we can do about it. Again, it's been so lax, especially in the corporate world, on they've been really lax on keeping cybersecurity hygiene on the back end. So they have databases of endless data for all the people. I look at Twitter, even Twitter. They came out, was it last month or August, saying that they haven't upgraded servers in like 10 years.
Oh my God.
But that's part of the reason why our information is out there. But the other part is that we also give it away freely. How many forms do you fill out on Facebook? Or I see people doing those posts with who's your best friend, what street do they live on,
Right.
and, all those things, and you're giving away your security questions. Don't do that.
That's a good point. Like,
Yeah,
I guess I should stop. Yeah, I guess I should stop using the password 123.
Yes, that should have stopped a long time ago.
Yeah.
Now, I don't mean to make fun of it because it is a serious thing, but keep it a little bit lighthearted sometimes. That's probably the most important thing, is to make sure that you use people use a unique password on all your websites, so you never use the same password twice, and always set up multi-factor authentication if it's available. And if it's not available, find something else that has it. I think it's that important. If your bank doesn't have multi-factor authentication and they won't allow it, go to another bank. It's that important.
That's great. Yeah, and then something is basic, right? We have so many in this day and age of, especially with people with it isn't unique to people with kids, but I know with kids, I got so many other accounts I got to manage too, right? With their school and other things, that it just feels like I have like hundreds of accounts I'm trying to manage with different usernames and passwords.
What's that? Password manager. So there's lots of free password managers on the market. Even if you pay for one, they're not crazy expensive. Something like LastPass or 1Password. There's a Keeper. There's a ton. Probably Dashlane is another one that's pretty good. Basically, a password manager you can use as a plugin to your browser to save your unique passwords for each website, so you don't have to remember them all.
Right.
And saved in one secure place, which, by the way, you can't access without two-factor authentication. But at least you only have to remember one password.
Right. They always joke around and say there's a commercial associated with it, and they're like, he's asking her husband, like, what's the password seafood? You mean any seafood? Like, just try anything in the ocean, right? You'll finally get to it. I mean, it's crazy. So we did that too, and I think it's been a lifesaver for my, I think it saved my marriage, because it helps my wife kind of keep things in order, with different accounts. It's crazy, but yeah. Important.
Something that might relate to you, and kind of what you do as far as you help people planning for, kind of retirement, end of life, things like that. And using a password manager can also be helpful for that. If, God forbid, someone pass away and your family needs to get into your stuff. That's huge. And that could be a big problem for a lot of people.
It's a really, Joe, I really appreciate you bringing that up because that came up more recently with a client of mine who has his parent passed away, and it was just a nightmare trying to deal with his estate, and they didn't have their estate plan in place, which is a completely separate topic. But yeah, all their accounts and all those things, it just was a nightmare trying to sort of reconcile them and settle up, and they just had no access to things, these tragedies kind of it compounds the pain.
I've
For
had it
sure.
happen to customers where, if someone passes away and, they're no longer at the client, we're deactivating email accounts and moving on. We can't leave that open. And we've had to go back and re-enable so we can do password resets and get into their accounts. It's a terrible situation, but it's definitely something to think about when planning for that.
Yeah, no, that's really key. And yeah, that's why, and you make good points around, that's why I could be a little anal about it, but on occasion, checking the credit scores, credit reports, right? These things are very key just to kind of keep tabs with them, making sure that they're accurate. And certainly even I check my, even your accounts just to see if there's anything unique going on that may be happening, right? There's good protections in place within some of these organizations, but they're not foolproof either.
No, unfortunately, there's no like 100% effective way to keep everything under control. But there are some products on the market like Norton LifeLock. I think it's like called Norton 360 LifeLock or something like that. I have to look it up because I don't remember exactly what it's called, but it's a good product as far as it provides endpoint protection for your laptop or computer. So it's like an advanced antivirus, whereas traditional antivirus kind of just looks at the files that are on your computer. This type has kind of an AI engine that looks at behavior as well, which could protect against certain types of ransomware and other things. And it's not crazy expensive, but part of the product is credit monitoring. I believe you can freeze your credit. It does dark web scanning and some other thing. It's a really good tool to kind of stay on top of your information that now might be out there. But what they don't do is they do have support where you can call, but it's not quite proactive as far as people go. The tool is proactive. It's a software that runs. But they don't really like pick up the phone and call you and say, hey, we found this. Hey, we found XYZ.
Okay.
I'm thinking about getting into that space because there is a need for a little bit more of like a personal type of approach there in the residential space, but I haven't gotten into that yet.
So what is, I've heard those terms before. You mentioned it. It's like, so what is the dark web anyway? What's specific? Define that for listeners here.
The dark web is a place on the internet that you can only get to with very specific software on your computer. And I'm not even going to say the name or what it is because you really shouldn't do it. Just being on there, just connecting to it can open up your computer to attacks.
Okay.
So it's really not worth doing. We do it sometimes from very isolated places just to look at, sometimes we're looking our clients' data. We want to see what's out there because sometimes our scans don't give us everything. And we want to know what's out there so we can help our clients, protect against whatever's out there. Sometimes you can find bank account numbers, social security numbers. It can be dangerous. So we try to stay on top of them. But the dark web is like a hidden place on the internet where criminals sell stuff. And you can buy anything on there, like whatever your worst imagination wants to buy can be bought on the dark web. And it's a bad place. It's a scary place.
Okay. Now I'm going to pretend it doesn't exist. I've heard it before. Yeah, I guess I shouldn't be doing my holiday shopping there.
No, you should not. You're not going to find anything that you're going to want to buy.
Black Friday sales on the dark web.
Yeah, that's like every day.
Yeah. I guess that's, yeah. Okay. All right. We'll move on with that one. So let me shift gears a little bit. And I know this is probably more of your bread and butter with your organization in Petra, so businesses, obviously, whether it's B2B or B2C, whatever, there's a lot of sensitive information being collected and used. So, for a lot of your business owners, what are you helping them sort of get into place, right, to help protect all that?
even businesses that don't think they have what it's called PII, personally identifiable information, personal identifiable information. Even businesses that don't think that they possess any of that do. If you have employees, you have it. If you have a list of customers and marketing lists, a PII can be first name, last name, email, phone number, social security number, driver's license number, passport number, any of that stuff. Definitely, if you have employees, you have it. And so what we do is try to help our customers adopt a security framework to protect their data and their systems from bad actors, from data exfiltration, from malware, ransomware, viruses, all these things. And we do that by monitoring everything, the network traffic, monitoring and restricting what's allowed to run on computers. We're monitoring every nook and cranny of the computer network to try and make sure that nothing bad is going on. Now, it's not 100%, and it's never going to be 100%. There's always new stuff coming out, but we do a pretty good job of warding off the large bulk of attacks that do happen.
And I guess that's the thing. I mean, I think for people who maybe have small businesses or maybe don't even have a whole set of employees, I mean, I suspect there might be just back to the awareness, like a lack of awareness of like the magnitude of risk that goes on, right? Or is there?
So it's everywhere. And I've seen one-man shop get, it happened mostly to the people who are overwhelmed. And that's mostly people who are by themselves. Actually, I had an attorney a couple of months ago who works out of his house by himself, does some real estate transactions. He had someone called him on the phone and said, "Hey, I'm from Microsoft and I need to get into your computer because you have a virus. We need to fix it." And lets the guy in. No verification. No, you're busy. It's late at night. I'm not paying attention. Okay, sure. Come on, let's fix it. I have a problem. Lets the guy in, and the guy got him to log into his bank account, and they made a fake web page that resembled the bank account to trick the lawyer into thinking that he had already transferred $25,000 to this hacker when it never happened. But the web page that they created looked exactly like the bank that the guy used, and it showed details because they just copied the page that they logged into. Right? It was an easy trick, and it ended up that they changed the password on the computer so the guy couldn't get into it. The computer was we couldn't use it. I had to take it offline, reset the password, back up the guy's data that he needed because he had like case data on there from his clients, and he was doing mostly real estate transactions. But what does that mean? Financial information, especially social security numbers,
right?
A lot of stuff. And we wiped the machine, started from scratch, reinstalled stuff, put the data back, and it was like it never happened. But some things like that, there's only one way to fix it, and some of that goes right to the people who are actually using the computer. And so a big part of what we do, to your point, is awareness training. We do ongoing training modules and testing. So we actually send phishing emails and text messages to employees of our clients' companies on purpose to see what they do and how they interact with it. And then sometimes we do get people who will put in a password or something like that, and they get extra training that month. But that's a big way of combating this problem is just awareness and training, because a lot of people just don't know about it, are easily tricked or busy and attention when they need to pay a little more attention. Yeah, so that's it's really a constantly evolving problem. I'm smiling because it's a fun problem to me. I like it. It's a huge problem. It's a complicated problem, but it's a fun problem to try and attack, from every different direction.
Yeah, and to your point, just like like a virus that keeps on mutating, right? You have,
Exactly.
the different ways we were trying to penetrate and do these nefarious things. Unfortunately, I wish there weren't any bad actors out there, but there are.
It's everywhere. It's not just in cybersecurity and IT realm. We have bad actors all over the place.
Yeah, no. And I guess for this too, this is where it's, whether it's, hear stories around, your business owner didn't protect their inventory and it burned down and basically went out of business in 6 months or 12 months, or, one of the partners in the business dies and didn't have a plan for that. And so it basically decimated the business. These sorts of risks could actually happen with a cybersecurity hit, right?
That's why we have fire insurance and life insurance and cybersecurity insurance.
That's great.
Which are, depending on your industry and area, like for example, look at fire insurance, flood insurance. If you're in manufacturing and you have like heavy equipment on the floor, your fire insurance is going to be expensive, right? If you live in a flood zone, your flood insurance is going to be crazy if they'll give it to you, right?
Right.
So if you're in IT, your cyber insurance is going to be expensive. If you're a normal business, it's probably still going to be expensive because you're still any small business is still at risk. Whether you have 1 employee or 10 employees or 150 employees, whatever you have. So once your data gets out there, it's prone to, you become prone to attack.
Yeah. Well, I think we can easily, for folks like myself that are maybe not as well versed in these things, I think we can fortunately take things for granted, like we have like some Norton antivirus on our computer, so we must be good, right? We're completely shielded, right? We're good.
I mean, it's better than nothing. Better than nothing. But there's so much to do.
Well, I guess for that sake, to going to professionals like in businesses like you to kind of do a once over, right? Kind of see and identify where there are potential risks there that they may not even know exist, right? This is more of an assessment that you guys would do for folks, right? Is that accurate?
Yeah, so we pretty much start every engagement with that. It's like going to the doctor. Yeah, you should go to the doctor and tell them something hurts, and you're like, okay, well, I gotta look at all of that first, and then I'll tell you what's wrong. So we're the same way, especially if we're walking into a business that maybe has 50 people and 2 or 3 servers and a network. We have to figure out what's there before we can tell you what the problem is. You might know the symptoms of the problem, but we have to figure out what the actual problem is to actually fix it. And with that, trying to find what the cause of whatever issue you're having is, we have to also, what we include as part of our initial assessment, security assessment, because it's just fundamental to what we do now at this point, because of the magnitude of the bad acting that's going on. It's just part of our offering because it's necessary, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And, I equated to it, and that's same in my world too. And think of it just like a doctor, right? I mean, you got to assess your patient.
Yep.
And you need the diagnostics, the blood works, and whatever you need to figure out how to diagnose something.
They got to do MRIs, X-rays. I got to do network scans, data scans. Same thing.
Crazy. So what do you see? Is there anything that in the cybersecurity world that you're really watching closely? Anything that's emerging that, that could start becoming more prevalent for folks as risk? Like anything that's bubbling up more recently?
So with the war going on in Ukraine, there's been a lot of activity out of Russia.
Mm.
And it was more probably in the earlier part of this year than it is right now. But the state-sponsored hacking is becoming more and more of a problem. It's coming out of China and Russia and India. It's unclear what we're calling state-sponsored hacking. There's a lot of ambiguity right now in what's covered by insurance and what's not because of that word, state-sponsored hacking. This cyber warfare is what's going to be a problem because they're coming after water, power,
Got it. Yeah. Energy
things like
sources,
that.
maybe. Yeah.
And from what we see out in the wild, I say, a lot of those utility controls are underprotected. There was this recent story of a power plant that was, or I'm sorry, the oil pipeline. Was that last year? Maybe in the fall, where the oil pipeline was shut down for a while because of a ransomware attack. They were running like Windows XP computers with no security. And
Well,
you can't do that anymore because it's not patched. And then there's so many vulnerabilities in the older software. That's also another part of what we do is we're constantly monitoring for active vulnerabilities and finding out how are we going to update this, turn this setting off so this is not vulnerable anymore. Half of my email inbox is updates about what's going on in the wild. What new vulnerability came out today? Every day it's like a lot.
it's crazy. Yeah. I mean, I guess it's probably a little daunting especially for a business owner or individual. Like we got, our lives to deal with, our businesses to focus on, like, to be able to monitor all those sorts of things is probably nearly impossible.
Yep. That's why we exist.
Yeah, no, it's good. And just like anything with these sort of risks is, I'd rather be I always think that in years, like 10 years ahead of it before, or as opposed to one day late, and could be disastrous because there wasn't anything in place. So, no, really important stuff. And, so for folks that, obviously you gave us some really interesting tips from the personal side, right? Because we have vulnerabilities, just even the basics, right? Getting some of that in place. But, certainly if you're a business owner, what's maybe the first thing that they should do now? Like, what's the first step that you think they could take?
That's a great question. If you're a business owner and you haven't had a cybersecurity risk assessment done, that is the absolute first thing that should be done immediately, and figure out where you stand against cyber attacks, and then come up with a plan to fix it.
And just don't Google it.
Yeah,
right?
don't Google it. Exactly.
Yeah, Google it does not know everything.
In your area, reach out to Tom. I can help you find someone. Doesn't have to be me. to get a good, trustworthy assessment done. That's key, because you can't. We're data driven now. We have to know what we're working with to make an accurate game plan.
No, that's great. No, Joe, I really appreciate it. I mean, these are, I appreciate gotten to know you and learn more about this space. I'm at the, the baby stages, but I feel much more in tune to the risks associated with this. So I really appreciate your expertise and support, and thank you for you coming on today, sharing some stuff with listeners here. I've started just doing this now, like to ask a question that's maybe seemingly a little bit off topic, but it's not, because we talk about wealth a lot, right? And this is a show about wealth, and isn't just about money and making money, but we have lives, right? And I'm always curious to see, like, what areas, is there any other areas of life that you feel you have some wealth and abundance in that you're enjoying today, outside of what sits in your bank account?
Oh, yeah,
some good things.
For sure. So my family, my wife and I just got married in May. So we're married for, what was it, 5 months? Almost 5 months. And we have a small little 2-year-old, and she's wonderful. So that is the number one priority, right, for everything. But I also do, I play the organ, pipe organ, in my spare time. This is a little fun thing I like to do. And it kind of keeps my mind off of the craziness of the everyday job. So, that's me every day. I have 2 things to worry about: my family, my business, and playing the organ. Great.
We'll take it. So, Joe, so best place for maybe anyone who might be interested in reaching out, learning more, like how they reach out to you.
I guess the website is probably the best place
Okay.
right now. I'm working on revamping that. But the www.inpedshop.com.
All right. We'll definitely put that in the show notes. And people can reach out, and certainly reach out to me if you want to connect with Joe. I know where to reach him too. So, Joe, thank you again. Appreciate all your help and helping protect us from the cybersecurity and last thing, don't go to the dark web.
Yeah,
Right?
don't go to the dark web.
That's a good key message I've learned here. Try to ignore it. It's not there.
Well, yeah, let somebody who knows what they're doing go to the dark web.
Yes, right. Let the experts handle it. Right. Awesome.
It's like doing your taxes.
All right. Take care. Thanks for joining, Joe.
Thank you, Tom.
All right. Thanks for joining me on this episode today. I really am grateful for you as listeners to the Perennial Pride podcast. I hope you're getting some tremendous value out of it and hopefully pushing you along your journey to financial freedom. I put this podcast together really to help you get more educated around your finances so that you feel empowered to live the life that you really want. And if you like the content that you heard today or watched, then I would encourage you to go to my website, perennialpride.com. There's tons of other content there. And you can access my book, Wealth Beyond the Numbers. You can buy it there on my website. It's a aggregation of a lot of great tips and tools I've learned to not only build my wealth in my accounts, but build wealth in my life and abundance and joy, and something that has a lot of my experiences in the journey that I've been on personally. Hopefully that can be also of value to you as you sort of move forward. So thanks again for being a Perennial Pride listener, and we'll see you on the next episode.